You are listening to the Fit Figure Formula podcast. I help female perfectionists beat self-sabotage and lose the weight for good using the Fit Figure Formula coaching program. I'm your host, Stephanie Riles, registered dietitian, personal trainer, and mindset transformation coach. If you've been struggling with all or nothing thinking, negative self-talk, or self-sabotage, this is the podcast for you. Learn how to get consistent and become the best version of yourself from the inside out. So let's get started. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Fit Figure Formula podcast. This is episode 85. So today I'm going to be talking about consistency even when I don't like quote unquote healthy food. So again, all of these podcast episodes are stemming from comments that I have gotten inside of my Facebook group. So number one, make sure you're inside of my Facebook group. Go to the show notes and click the link, join my free Facebook group. And I do Q&As in there every single week. Someone commented and said, it's hard for me to stay consistent because I don't really like the taste of like healthy food. So I want to debunk this. I want to give you some tips to help manage if this is you. There's a lot of information out there about what's healthy, what's not, how much you should have. And when you're in the dark about that, then it does become kind of daunting. And that is one of the major reasons why I support my clients with understanding their macros. It is so much simpler than you think. My clients tell me all the time that this is way easier than what I was doing before because you've maybe tried tracking your macros before. Again, macros are protein, carbs, and fat. But when my clients work with me, they tell me all the time that this is way easier than they thought. And when you understand your food, you actually can plan in treats. You can have things that you would typically say, oh, well, that's not healthy, so I can't have it. But when you actually understand your food, you understand how it can fit into your plan. One of the things that my clients love with working with me inside the formula is that they love the fact that I don't tell them not to eat something. I never say, hey, don't eat that, or that's not healthy, so don't have that. People ask me all the time, like, hey, can I have this? And they'll show me an item of food. And I'm like, sure, yes, you can. But what else are you having throughout the day? That's going to really tell you how much of that item you can have based on what else you're having throughout the day. So consistency is key. We always talk about how important consistency is to your journey and making sure that you're showing up for yourself. Consistency is not perfection. I talked about that in a few episodes previous to this one. So if you haven't checked out the previous episodes on consistency, y'all, they're really good. I talked about grief and loss last week. We talked about consistency on vacation, consistency in terms of having a tenacious mindset. And that mindset part is very important. If you want to be consistent, you got to understand how to have a tenacious mindset. And a tenacious mindset does not mean beating yourself up. It does not mean being really hard or really rigid. So definitely check out that episode if you feel like, how can I think about having a tenacious mindset and being consistent in a way that doesn't make me feel bad or make me feel like I'm failing. So I tell you guys all the time, just because you have a healthy option or you're trying to eat more mindfully, trying to eat healthier versions of your food, doesn't mean that you're still eating strategically for your goals, because you could still be under eating protein. You can still be overeating calories, even when you are eating healthy food. So let's get specific. What is it that you actually need to reach your goals instead of guessing? Guessing is going to waste so much time. You can be consistent, and you can be consistent at the wrong things. And I think just saying that out loud just now, that's a whole podcast episode in and of itself, of you feel like you're doing the right things and you're being consistent, but you might be being consistent at the wrong things, which is why you're so frustrated at your results, because you're like, I'm doing this and I'm doing that. But it's like, no, we got to be consistent at doing the right thing. So when you join the formula or when you work with me, I demystify that so you can actually work hard and work on the right things and be consistent with the right things that are going to help you actually reach your goals. So today I'll be talking about consistency, even when you don't like quote unquote healthy food. So here's the thing. When we think about dieting, and I think this comes from like probably past experiences, you may have been told to eat bland chicken. You may have been told that you needed to have plain Greek yogurt because yogurt has too much sugar. You may have been told that you need to eat things that don't have any salt in it. So you're trying to eat no salt, dry chicken, plain Greek yogurt. You're trying to eat a whole bunch of things that you do not like, and you wonder why you're inconsistent. You're inconsistent because that's not a lifestyle. You're not going to be able to build a lifestyle based on eating foods that you do not like because you're not going to continue to do that. And you're always going to be really tempted. I talked about consistency during temptation. Check the previous episodes. So, in diet culture, there is a lot of rules. Don't eat this, eat that. Don't eat this, eat that. And I understand why for your brain that just it resonates because it just makes things a little bit more clear, but it also makes things very rigid. And it also creates overwhelm because now you're like, well, shoot, I can't eat anything. If fruit has too much sugar, if yogurt has too much sugar, everything has sugar in it. I can't eat anything white. I can't put any salt on my chicken. What can I eat? And then you just end up eating DoorDash. I always find it very interesting that my clients will be like, oh, well, I thought I needed organic this, or I thought that this particular bread had too much sugar in it. And they go down these rabbit holes of trying to find the best of the best based off of like what the internet says in terms of like what's healthy and what's not. And then they end up just going to DoorDash anyway, because now they've gotten too overwhelmed and they stop everything. This is all or nothing thinking, right? All or nothing, like, oh, it has to be organic. It needs to be no sugar, no salt, gluten-free, dairy-free. Like all of that is way too much unless you have an allergy or something like that. We need to be thinking about balance. And balance requires a little bit of skill because like what is balance, right? You don't know that. You're still just guessing if you're not really understanding your macros. And again, I don't teach macros so that you can track macros every day, but I do teach you macros so that you have a system. You can utilize that system. The information that you actually learn, you can take with you forever when you are eating more intuitively once you have reached your goal. Okay. So nobody likes dry chicken. Nobody just likes to eat chicken and rice and broccoli. I'm not even a salad girl. Like if I have to eat a salad needs to be beefed up with a whole bunch of stuff. You don't even have to give me any lettuce. Like I don't even need any lettuce. So we have to debunk what we think is quote unquote healthy food. Okay. So if you are feeling punished, restricted, or dissatisfied with your meals and you're trying to lose weight, we got to slowly start to change that. Okay. So let's talk about what are some things that you can do, because sometimes what you've been told on the internet to eat in order to lose fat, you don't like. I post sometimes about like what I like, and I noticed that for breakfast, I always talk about my avocado toast with eggs and smoked salmon. And some people are like, oh, I don't like avocado. And I'm like, it's okay. You don't like, there's no food that is absolutely mandatory. When you see on the internet, on Instagram, where people are saying, eat this food, and this food for weight loss, eat this food, and this food to build muscle. Those are not like required foods. Okay. So I want you to think about, if you could just eat whatever you wanted to eat, what would you be having? What would you eat? Because we can adjust and pivot a little bit in terms of like making that meal a healthier version, or sometimes even incorporating the regular version too, because there's a time and a place for that as well. So if you have been eating highly processed foods, your brain is used to high salt, high sugar, high fat combinations. And then so whole foods feel kind of boring and they're not engineered to hit those same dopamine levels. So think about the foods that you like that are packaged that you already know they are not healthy for your body. They have literally been engineered so that you can eat more of them and so that you don't feel as full and satisfied, and you can actually eat a bigger portion without being full, and so that you just keep eating. So sometimes our taste buds do need a little bit of recalibration. However, you don't want to do that all at once. You want to take this slow. You don't want to go from eating out, 7 times a week to eating all bland chicken and broccoli, because you're not going to stick with that. So I want you to think about right now, how many times per week do you eat out? And I don't mean how many days per week. I want you to count out how many meals. So if you eat out at Starbucks for breakfast If you're eating at Chick-fil-A for lunch, and if you get DoorDash for dinner, that's 3 times in one day. So in a week, how many times do you eat out? Get that number in your brain. This is something that I ask my clients when we first start working together is how many times do you eat out? And then we're going to start slowly cutting that back. So you don't want to go from eating out 5 times a week to saying, I'm not going to eat out at all. Again, that's all or nothing. So slowly start to cut back. Okay. I also want you to think about what are the meals that you typically convenience eat. So for example, dinner time, a lot of times is a hard one because you're coming home, you may have not prepared anything and you're busy and you're like, hey, let's just stop and get something to eat because that's quick and I don't have to do dishes. So think about what's the meal for you. It might be breakfast. Breakfast, you might always wake up late and now you're scrambling in the morning and you just go through the McDonald's drive-through. What's the one meal that you know you have the hardest struggle with, and start with that meal first to start pulling back and prepping some things that might be more healthy for you. Okay, so that's one thing. And we can also have some simple strategies to make our food taste better. Number one, we got to have a strategy for planning our meals, right? So we got to make sure that we're planning our meals. And again, if you're eating out several times, cut that back just a little bit. Focus on the meal time that you struggle with the most and strategically plan those meals out. So now we're going to be replacing some of those meals where you're eating out with actual whole foods. And so when you are picking that, number one, it doesn't have to be the best of the best, organic, gluten-free, et cetera, et cetera. Think about the things that you would normally order. If you're going out to Chipotle, you can make Chipotle at home, right? If you love Whataburger burgers, you can make a burger at home. If you love to go to Taco Bell, you can make a taco at home, right? Like there are things that you're eating out that you can actually eat at home. I actually just had a call with a client last week, and we were talking about how she was tired of chicken and eating the same things. So she's getting sick of chicken. And I'm like, well, why don't you season it in a way that is, maybe you can have like an Italian seasoning, right? Then some days you can do like a Thai spice, or maybe you can do like more of a Mexican spice, right? So switch up your seasonings. It might just be that you're just putting salt and pepper, or you're not like playing around with different flavors and stuff. I know when I was first learning how to cook, I would literally like take the seasoning and like put a little bit in my hand and like taste it. Like how does that taste, right? So garlic, using garlic powder, garlic salt, onion powder, smoked paprika, chili flakes, Italian seasoning, lemon pepper, right? Like step up your seasoning game, and that might be the trick that you need to be able to be more consistent and actually enjoy the foods that you are eating. And you can do that with meat, and you can season your vegetables as well. Something that I absolutely love to do is just roasting your vegetables. Like it's so simple, and it doesn't sound like it would make a big difference, but for sure, like I don't care about a carrot, but if you roast carrots, they just taste way better. Same thing with sweet potatoes. I like sweet potatoes any kind of way you make them, but if you roast them, they just have a different flavor. So roasting your vegetables and like thinking about not only the seasoning, but like how you're preparing them. So if you're just like steaming your broccoli, try roasting it. Roasting means I'm going to put a little oil, I'm going to put some seasoning, and I'm going to put that in the oven or air fryer. And then it just gives it a different flavor and a different taste. So think about the seasonings that you're using. Also think about the equipment that you have. Do you have an air fryer that you can make things in? Do you have a crock pot, right? So get some recipes that are just like a dump meal where you put things in a crock pot. It also might be that you might not be using recipes. This is something that I did a lot, and this was a huge mistake because I felt like cooking seemed pretty easy, but I definitely was not good at it. And I'm not the greatest cook now, I will tell you, like I'm not the greatest cook, but I have learned a few things and I enjoy the food that I eat now. But I think building up your culinary skills, tasting your food as you go can really help. Trying out those different flavor profiles, actually following a recipe. So if you are trying to go into the kitchen and just wing it, try a recipe. Here's my guideline for my formula clients: 1 new recipe per week. So no more than 1 new recipe per week. we're going to roll in one new recipe. And then each week that it makes it very simple to try one new recipe. And then the recipe that you used last week is no longer new, right? So that gives you a little bit of variety without burning out and you're not bored. Okay. So season like you mean it. Salt is really not the enemy. So I know a lot of people try to stay away from salt and it's fine. If you are salt sensitive, if you have hypertension, I get it. Not everybody is salt sensitive though. So don't stray away from adding a little salt to your food. Again, check with your physician. If you're eating mostly single ingredient whole foods, you know that they don't have a lot of salt in it anyway, right? And so if you're adding a little bit of salt and you're not eating a lot of things that come out of a package, you're probably going to be just fine. But also don't sleep on things like chili flakes, cilantro. I put cilantro on almost everything. I love cilantro. Different types of seasonings to help bring out that flavor profile a little bit, okay? So you can use healthy fats for flavor. So flavor lives in fat. One of the biggest reasons why we like hyper palatable foods that you eat out at a restaurant is because it has a ton of fat, which makes it like a little bit more tender, gives it a different mouthfeel. So when you are cooking, use your olive oil, use your avocado oil. You can use a little bit of butter. It helps with taste. It helps with satisfaction. It helps you with staying full. And if you're using healthy fats, like avocado and things like that, they can really help the texture of your food. So I put frozen avocado chunks in my smoothies so that I can have a little bit of fat. Smoothies tend to be very carb heavy. So I make sure that I put chia seeds, which is a healthy fat and gives you some fiber, avocado, which is a healthy fat and gives you some fiber. And I also put some protein in there. So make sure that you're using some healthy fat, using some seasonings and switching that up. Don't just boil everything. So start roasting your vegetables and caramelizing your onions, using your air fryer, grilling. I will put some stuff on a grill and that smoky flavor, absolutely love it. Okay, so chicken, salmon, shrimp, all of those things taste really, 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 really good on the grill. Even like roasted broccoli. Roasted broccoli, I'll put some olive oil, I'll put some garlic, salt, I'll put Parmesan cheese, that's that fat again, and that beats steamed broccoli any day in my book, okay? You can also add an acid, right? So this is an instant little upgrade. Acid kind of brightens up everything. So you can use lemon juice, lime juice, or vinegar, and it makes the food taste like restaurant level. It gives it a little bit of elevation with almost no effort. So it takes nothing to just add a little bit of lime juice, right? So today I'm going to be having shrimp tacos. They're so easy. The macros are amazing. I'm having shrimp, 2 tortillas, some shredded cabbage that I already bought that was already shredded. There is some chipotle sauce that's like 50 calories. I'm going to put that on there and I'm going to sprinkle a little bit of lime juice on top and maybe some avocado. And I had it the other day. It was so good. That is so simple. And that is something that you could eat at a restaurant that you would be like, okay, that's really good, but you can make that at home. So these are some game changers in terms of what you're making and making your food more flavorful and more enjoyable. So again, think about what you're eating out and then think about how you can recreate that at home. So it's also not so much about doing swaps, because sometimes, like, you know how you have a dessert and then you try to make the dessert, but you make it in a healthy way and you're trying to use like Greek yogurt and you're trying to use healthy ingredients and it just tastes healthy and it doesn't taste good. Don't do that. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about, you know, making food that actually tastes good with ingredients that you like. So for example, there is a viral sweet potato bowl that I've been making. I absolutely love it. But the way that it comes, or the way that I've seen it a lot, is like with cottage cheese, sweet potatoes, avocado. And I don't like cottage cheese. So I just swap the cottage cheese out, which is your protein. I swap that out for feta cheese, which is really a fat, but I like that much better. And I put it on a bed of sauteed spinach. You can do rice too, but I don't. And that is so satisfying to me. Okay, so take your recipes that you want to try and don't put ingredients in it that you don't like. Okay, So let's talk about flavor stacking. So out of what I just mentioned, right? Instead of just relying on one thing, you can kind of layer flavors. So adding fat, adding your little salt. You can leave the salt if you need to, but I need a little bit of salt on my food, or at least a salt substitute or something. Lemon is also really good for that too. It kind of makes something taste a little bit saltier. So that I found that really helps. So your fat, your salt, your added acid, and some spice. So an example of this might be chicken with olive oil. That's your fat, your garlic, paprika, and salt, and your lemon juice, right? And so sprinkling a little bit of lemon juice on your chicken. And that just elevates your dish just a little bit. So you can recreate your favorite fruit foods. You don't have to necessarily replace them. So if you love tacos, eat tacos. I'm probably going to have tacos this week. I don't buy the ground turkey. Is ground turkey lean? Sure, it is, but I don't like ground turkey, so I'm not buying ground turkey. I do buy the leaner ground beef. I just talked to a client last night who uses ground chicken, and I don't think I've ever bought ground chicken, but you could totally do that. I can see how that could taste just fine. And buy your tortillas. I like to buy like the high protein or high fiber tortillas. You can do burgers. I do burgers all the time, so you can make those ingredients at home. I actually like my burgers better than eating out. You can do fries in the air fryer, air fried potatoes, super duper simple and still very, very satisfying, and they can totally fit into your macros. So you can also pair new foods with some familiar foods. So maybe if you are trying to ease into creating new, healthier meals, you're trying to find out what are the meals that are going to stick with you, things that you like, but you don't want to go cold turkey. You can have a burger, but then have your air fried potato fries or broccoli or a side salad with it instead of getting, a full Chick-fil-A burger with fries and a shake, right? So start with incorporating even just the sides that might be something that you want to try. Again, no more than one new recipe per week, but if you feel like, oh, I don't like vegetables, right? Don't eat plain vegetables. Pair them with a sauce that you love, season your vegetables, use those vegetables with meals that you're already kind of used to. So if you are used to like making a pasta dish at home, add some veggies in there instead of like trying to eat them separately. One of the things that you can do too is like always add veggies to every meal. So if you're eating a sandwich, make sure you have onions if you like onions, tomatoes, lettuce, avocado, like adding vegetables to what you're already eating to just try to incorporate a little bit more of a flavor profile, a little bit more nutrition, fiber, things like that. So we can gradually train your taste buds to go from fast food to eating something that is wholesome, and you're going to feel so much better. You're going to have so much more energy. Your joints are going to stop aching. You are not going to be as tired throughout the day when you actually nourish your body. So think about that as well. Like think about the benefit that you're going to get. So you might need to put a little elbow grease into finding meals that you like, that are simple enough that you actually like. What I tell my clients to do is to go into Pinterest one time, find all the recipes that you want to try and put them into one board. And then once a week, go into that one single board and then come out. Because you can get stuck in Pinterest every single time you go in there and it'll feel really overwhelming. But if you set some boundaries around that and go in there one time, pull like 20 recipes that you want to try, and then that'll last you for 20 weeks to try one new recipe off of that one board and then keep the things that you actually like. Again, don't pick stuff that has ingredients that you do not like, or don't pick things that are super duper complicated either, but do try different spices, do try preparing things in a different way. Like I said, if you always steam, try roasting and try different cooking methods as well. All right, so we want to keep it simple. These do not have to be gourmet meals. One of the things that I do not like to do is have 11 ingredients in my meals, right? So you want to start developing a list of 3 to 5 go-to meals that you can put on autopilot that work for you. And one thing that we do start off with in the formula is a formula for your meals: a protein, a fiber-filled carb, a healthy fat, and a veggie, right, for lunch and dinner. And I give my clients a list and they can pull any protein, any fiber-filled carb, any healthy fat, and any veggie in and make that work for them. That could be a wrap, it could be a bowl, that could be like salmon, sweet potatoes, and sauteed spinach with, their olive oil or some avocado or whatever. It could be stir fry, whatever it is. Make sure that you have those components, because that is what makes a balanced meal. That's what makes your meals very simple. So a lot of times I'll see like plates, people will like post their food and they'll have a protein, but then they'll have two starches. Like they'll have beans and macaroni and cheese, or fries and macaroni and cheese, or like two starches, which again is nothing is necessarily wrong, because again, you need to know what you're eating throughout the entire day, but you want to have that non-starchy vegetable, whether that's broccoli, roasted carrots, or like a caprese salad, or a kale salad, or balsamic Brussels sprouts, something like that, right? So you can try different things, like go to Pinterest, just look up like healthy sides or new ways to prepare vegetables that are super simple, right? One time I had it was roasted sweet potatoes, and it was like, I seasoned it with like rosemary and some other stuff. And just adding the rosemary itself, it just gave it a different flavor. And I was like, I really like this. And it was super duper simple. Okay. So when we think about our healthy meals, we don't want to do it all at one time. We want to start cutting back. We want to start trying one new thing per week. And we want to start trying different flavor profiles. We want to start experimenting with different cooking methods. So this is a journey. I want you to think about this as a journey. I don't want you to think about like going and like planning one time, and then if it doesn't work that one week, then you don't go back to it. I want you to always be thinking about, okay, what new thing can I try? Like one new thing. And this can be an adventure. It could be discovery. It could be something fun that you do, like with your family, to decide, like let your kids help you decide, like what is the one new recipe or one new fruit, one new vegetable that we're going to try. I had never had dragon fruit before. So I was told my son, I was like, okay, let's try dragon fruit. And lo and behold, he loved the dragon fruit. So it could be even something as simple as that. And you can make it something that is a family affair. In terms of like our culture and like eating a lot of soul food, a lot of like fat and high salt, a lot of butter, and putting sugar in your corn and your taco meat and all of that stuff. Like we know that our environment, like how we were raised as Black people in America, sometimes, especially if you're from the South, is not the healthiest. And I know that contributes to a lot of our disdain for quote unquote healthy food, is because, your mama and your grandma was putting sugar in the corn and sugar in everything. And as much as we want to keep our heritage, we also want to be healthy as well. So there's a time and a place, but if you got weight loss goals, we got to reprogram and rewire our brain into how we're cooking things. Again, going by a recipe, because I used to make this mistake all the time, trying to just wing it. Actually use a recipe and follow the recipe. And I know, again, for Black people, we don't even like to use recipes. But if you're starting out something new and you don't want to be overwhelmed and you don't want to be super disappointed in your food, start simple, start slow, incorporating something new, and definitely start with a recipe. It doesn't mean abandoning our culture, but it does mean shifting and being intentional and understand that, the way that we might have been taught how to eat was for survival, and that had a place and a time. And it's like, now if I want to be healthy, I can't eat things that are like swimming in grease or a whole bunch of fried foods. I can't tell you the last time I made something fried. Like, I think when I first bought my house, this was 2013, I think, I was experimenting with all kinds of stuff, and I would fry some stuff, but I don't think I've fried since then. Like, that's a really long time ago. And so again, there's a time and a place, but we got to modify our cooking methods. We have to adjust our portions. We can keep the flavors, right? But we got to tweak some of the ingredients. Okay. So that is a deep mindset shift that goes beyond just not knowing what to put in there, because at this point, the lack of knowledge is not the problem, right? Sometimes I'll ask, what do you think is keeping you from your goals? And the person will say, oh, I need some new healthy recipes. And I'm like, there are so many recipes online. Like you could ask ChatGPT, it'll literally, you can tell it your preferences and all of that, and it will literally tell you where to find it, make a grocery list for you. Like the information is not the issue, it's the implementation. And so inside of the formula, that's what I help you do, is actually implement. A lot of us know what to do, but we're not actually doing it. And the implementation is where the transformation is. And that's what I help my clients do. And ChatGPT can't help you do that. AI is not going to be able to help you necessarily implement. So that live coaching with a real person who actually cares about your goals, who you can talk through the mental blocks with, ChatGPT is helpful, but it's not live coaching. And that part will change your life. It'll change your body. It will improve your health, and it will increase your energy, and it will support your weight loss. So if you need help with creating a system, I help my clients build a system that builds on top of itself, and it gets easier and easier the more you do the system. You need a registered dietitian in your back pocket. I would love to help you on your journey. If you need to lose your next 20 pounds, you need to transition your mindset from just eating out of convenience to being inconsistent to always beating yourself up. That is exactly what I help my clients do inside the Fit Figure formula. I help female perfectionists to beat self-sabotage and lose the weight for good. So I hope this message was helpful today. You don't have to hate the food that you're eating. Matter of fact, you're going to need to love it. So let's go on a journey of finding foods that you actually enjoy that are going to make you feel so much better. And I tell you one thing that I've done in the past, when I have been eating well, and then I go and I eat like crap, my stomach hurts. I feel like I've eaten rocks. And you will see that once you get on a regimen, you don't even crave, like your body's not even going to crave the foods that you think that you love right now. A lot of times we have just a barrier or a mental block to planning. Our schedule is all over the place, and I help you get that together. We have just mental blocks about whether or not we have enough time. And when you get organized, you'll find that, oh, okay, I do have enough time. I'm just fighting through some resistance and some friction to just getting started. And so time is not going to wait for anyone. The time is going to pass anyway. So in 4 months, you can have your goal, or you can still be sitting around trying to figure out how to piece together free stuff on the internet. And I would rather you sign up to work with me and let me help you transform your entire life from here on out. Because in 4 months, you could actually be down 20 pounds instead of still confused. So let me help you inside the formula. I also have 2 spots for private one-on-one coaching. This is something that I have not opened up in a long time. I haven't actually offered one-on-one coaching in a very long time, but one-on-one coaching is one of the things that I absolutely love. I did it for several years before I moved to group, but I'm offering 2 people. You have until April 21st. Yeah, you have until April 21st to apply. So if you are interested in that, check the link in the show notes. There is an option for you to apply. So this opportunity is going to be for someone who wants to transform their relationship with food and fitness, who is tired of starting over and quote unquote failing, someone who wants to do the deep work. Because maybe the group is not for you. Maybe you don't necessarily want to get on a group call and be vulnerable and get coached. Maybe you're the type of person that likes one-on-one, personalized, customized help. And I'm offering 2 opportunities to get coached by me for 16 weeks. And it is a similar fashion to the Fit Figure formula, but obviously we can go a lot deeper on one-on-one coaching. But if you need support with your body image, your relationship with food, your relationship to the scale, and you like one-on-one personalized, customized help, and you want more information, you can book a call to see if it's a good fit. And I would love to help you in that one-on-one option. So go ahead and book your call. Again, you have until April 21st. If group is your thing, if you love the camaraderie of a group program, get on the wait list for the next enrollment of the Fit Figure Formula group program. That is also in the show notes. You can get on the wait list for the next group enrollment. So either one of those options, sign up, apply, put your name down, save your spot, and I will see you on the next one. Thanks for listening to the Fit Figure Formula podcast. If you're new here and you're struggling with your fitness journey, I invite you to take a super simple next step. Click the link in the show notes for a free training. If listening to this podcast has been helpful, imagine being inside the Formula Coaching Program. You can apply for coaching with the link in the show notes. I hope to see you inside.